Well, the tank goes on, and honestly, I'm okay with it. What's good, y'all? Welcome back to the Titans Rundown. I am your host, Micah McCamey, and whew, man, we lost, that's for sure, but I'll be honest, I am indifferent to if the Titans win or lose right now, because if we win, great, it's a win. Like, of course, we want to establish a winning culture of some sorts, but if we lose, then our draft position gets better. We jumped from 9 to 3 this weekend. Like, my gosh, so no matter what happens, it's a win for us no matter what. So that's good. Also, Chargers are a good football team. I was expecting to walk into this and just get absolutely trampled. And, we didn't get as trampled as I expected us to. I mean, even though the final score isn't representative of how the game actually went, we definitely played better than I was expecting. So, we'll take that, right? Like, that will be something that we are okay with, right? So here's the thing. I'm wanting to add on a new segment into the episodes. First off, let's get right on into today's episode. But also, I wanna add something specific into each episode, and maybe I'll get some glasses for this or something because I kind of sound like a geek whenever I'm going through this. But let's go through the 3 impact stats of this game. And I'm not talking about sacks allowed or passing yards, passing touchdowns, or anything like that. We're just going full on talking about other specific, not as well covered stats, okay? So, first off, okay, this is on Will Levis. He held the ball in the pocket for almost 3 seconds, okay? That's not good. He needs to get the ball out faster. I get it, okay? It's really hard to play with this O-line, specifically this right tackle situation that we have right now. But that does not mean that you can't just sit back there for 5 seconds. You could do that in college and get away with it scot-free, but in the NFL, you got to get that ball off fast. And you can't let the O-line fight for their dear life just so that way you can get a pass off, right? So 2.87 seconds left in the pocket. We took 3 red zone trips in this game, and we converted we converted a single red zone trip, which, if you were curious, yes, that red zone trip was in garbage time. So here's my thing. If we even convert 2 of those 3, or all 3 of those red zone trips we convert, then this may be a football game, Also, I will say this, though, to the Titans' credit, I'll give them this. I don't know what the officials were doing. We just got completely screwed over by that one penalty or not that one penalty, but Big Jeff is getting held, somehow still finds a way to get a strip sack, and Roger McCreary picks it up and takes it back to the house for a touchdown. But they say it was a forward pass because the ball was going forward. That was literally the only reason that it felt like they had. I don't know how else to describe it. So, that was completely really upsetting. I was mad about it, and I yelled at my TV whenever it happened, if I'm being honest with you. I need one of those, foam bricks so that way I can throw something at my TV but not break it. I was at somebody's house over the weekend for a birthday, and they have this foam brick where they watch sports, and whenever they're mad at a penalty, they just chuck it at the TV because they know that nothing's going to happen to the TV. Anyway, but here's the thing. We convert even one of those red zone trips, one extra of those red zone trips, that probably changes the tide of the game, I guess that one of these was a field goal, but if we convert that into a touchdown, then maybe, we have something in the game. But also, again, the penalty that took away a touchdown that could have been huge later on. This game would have been competitive if the refs didn't decide to absolutely destroy any chance that we had in this game. So I just wanted to put that out there. Also, the NFL has officiating issue, and they need to get it fixed fast before it feels like that the NFL is actually rigged. But anyway, third thing, 3 of 9 on third downs. That's not horrible, but it definitely could be better. Maybe get 4 of 9 or 5 of 9, and we're cooking with gas, we probably get a lot more closer to the red zone than we would have. Maybe those red zone trips increase, and maybe those red zone trips convert into touchdowns. And again, we stay in this game. All 3 of these could have really impacted the game if they would have just been, 2.87 seconds was cut down to 2.3 seconds. 1 of 3 red zone trips, maybe 2 of 3, or heck, even 3 of 3. and then third down conversions only 3 of 9, if that's like 4 or 5 of 9, then maybe something happens there. But those are the impact stats of this game. Let's move on to the positives. Starting out, okay, I put him here. I know that this is going to be controversial. People are not going to like me for this, but I am sorry. And the only reason I'm putting him here is not because he did something like obviously amazing on Sunday, but because he's getting too much crap from this fan base, even though he does not deserve any of the blame for what's going on right now. Brian Callahan has been a decent head coach. I know that he had like a really bad stint, like from like, I don't know, the Colts game to what would be like the Colts, the Bills. I think that there was a game before that, before the Bills. I can't remember, or there was a game somewhere in there that I'm thinking, oh yeah, right, the Lions. Like Colts, Bills, Lions, that stint of games was like really bad. But also those are other head coaches that are considered some of the better head coaches in the NFL. Yes, Shane Steichen is still good, even with Anthony Richardson and Joe Flacco not getting it done. He's still a solid head coach. But, like, those are 3 of the better head coaches in the NFL. And obviously, he was probably going to get out-coached by them. I mean, he could have definitely done a little bit better than he did. But still, that was a really bad 3-game stretch for Callahan. And now everybody is putting it in their head whenever they think about Callahan and not thinking about what did he actually do during the day. Like, there were some weird play calls, don't get me wrong. Like, the Wiley fade whenever he had Cam Hart on him. Like, don't get me wrong, Levis did not throw the best ball, to say the least. But also, it's not like you were expecting Josh Wiley to go up and get that. Like, if you had like one of the best pass catching tight ends in the NFL, or heck, even of all time, like a Travis Kelce, a George Kittle, a Gronk, even, like, you would feel a lot more comfortable throwing that fade route than you would with Josh Wiley. Just not that many tight ends can make that play, and I don't think that was a good idea. But also there was a screen pass to Tajay on like 2nd and like 15. Not really the best design, as it got like -5 yards. I'm sure that he marked that out of his playbook immediately, and we won't see that play again. But again, Callahan did not call a bad game. Like, I think he's starting to figure out how to call plays in action. It's just that it took him a little bit to figure it out. But I feel like something clicked after that Lions game, and he looked like a better play caller in the Patriots game, and he looked like a better play caller in the Chargers game. It's just his offense isn't getting it done right now. So, yeah, Callahan, overall, decent play caller, does not deserve any of the crap that the fan base is giving him. And, well, okay, he does deserve crap for not firing Colt Anderson. That's the one thing that I will agree on with the fan base. But still, even then, like, give him a year to turn it around. If he doesn't fire him at the end of the year, if things are still going the way that they are, though, yeah, he should get some big criticism. But anyway, moving on. J.C. Latham, very, very solid performance from J.C. Latham. 0 sacks, 1 pressure. It's kind of similar to what he was doing through like those first few weeks of the season, after the Bears game specifically, where he was just like playing really solid, he wasn't letting anybody by, overall just playing really good football. Like, those are the vibes that it was giving me. He's finally getting back to that version of himself. And I don't know, there may have been and even the pressure, like, I don't know what it was, but let's be real, it was probably because Levis held on to the ball for too long. Anyway, overall, Latham, really solid game, 0 sacks, 1 pressure, absolutely huge to see a young guy like that keep it on going and just playing as solid as can be. But anyway, last positive, and then I'll go into one neutral. But last positive, Calvin Ridley continues to look like he is finally starting to come into his own in this Titans offense, is starting to look like a receiver one. And trust me, if you would have had Christian Fulton on him all day, that man would have been some toasted or some burnt toast, to say the least. But again, Calvin Ridley, very solid game, 5 receptions, 84 yards, 2 touchdowns. One of those was in garbage time, don't get me wrong, but still, very solid game. And overall, I am just very pleased with how he's been playing over the past few weeks. He's had a nice little stint of games. From the Lions to now, he's had a very nice stint of games, especially against the Patriots. He made some really big catches that were needed, and I hope that he can continue that next week against the Vikings. It'll be a little bit harder because Brian Flores is just an awesome defensive mind. Like, his defense is the reason that they won that game on Sunday. But anyway, moving on, neutral. This one, this one, like, I think that I'll get some credibility for, because I feel like that most people in the fan base will agree. Will Levis was like a mixed bag, weirdly enough. There were some moments where you were just like, this is the Will Levis that we saw, in the preseason, and this is the Will Levis that we had heard about during training camp. This is the Will Levis that we saw in the Falcons, Dolphins, heck, even Steelers game. But there were also the moments where it was just like, yeah, that's the Levis that we've grown to know and love. But like, let's take a look at at some of the good things. Box score looks really good. 18 for 23. I think it was 18 for 23. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, but 18 for 23, 212 yards and 2 touchdowns. Again, one of those was in garbage time, but still, we'll give him credit for it. But then there were also the things where it was like, I mean, let's talk about how he really just did not have a sense for pocket pressure. Like, that dude would be wandering around the pocket for so long, and he would just be it felt like he was kind of confused about what was going on around him specifically. Excuse me. And I feel like that he could definitely be a lot better than you could let on. Like, I think he's actually really close to being great. If he can get the ball out a little bit quicker, and he starts and he keeps on doing what he had been doing whenever he wasn't holding onto the ball for too long, dude, like, he could be okay. Like, that's the most shocking thing that I have ever said on this podcast, if I'm being honest with you. Like, he could actually end up being all right. I don't know how else to put it. Now, don't get me wrong, he definitely could come in next week, still hold on to the ball for too long. If he keeps on holding the ball for too long, I'll be like, yeah, that's just something that we're not going to fix, and we need to go get another quarterback. But still, like, he showed a lot more flash on Sunday against the Chargers than he has at all this season. And that's a fact. Okay, now we go into the negatives. Let's get the elephant out of the room. Let's get the elephant in the room out of the room by addressing right tackle is still an absolute disaster. Leroy Watson, man, I liked the trade because I thought, it's a Callahan guy. Bill Callahan wanted him. He's a big dude, tight end, so he's athletic. 0 sacks, 0 pressures whenever he was playing in garbage time last year. But golly, he just has been really, really bad. Let me think. What else is there? Yeah, John Njoku, still not really good at all. Then there's also Mr. MPF, still haven't heard anything about him. Jalen Duncan, obviously, still not that good. Again, right tackle is an absolute disaster right now. And it honestly kind of hurts me thinking that we had Jerron Christian in the offseason, who, again, not that great, but he was a veteran that had starting experience before. And we decided to let him go and bet on the upside of any of those 4 guys. And none of them ended up working out, which leads to the dumpster fire that we have right now, known as the 4-headed ugly monster at right tackle. So that's really fun. Again, if Will Levis again keeps on progressing from this performance, then we may not even need a quarterback in the draft, and we could go after right tackle. But, golly, I do hope that Levis works out just for that fact alone. I don't want to see another season of NPF and Leroy Watson manning the battlefield at right tackle. But, again, golly, it's just a disaster. But overall, again, right tackle, biggest weakness on this team. All right. Then we got Kenneth Murray. Golly, dude. I was honestly optimistic about this. Apparently, he was getting really good reviews out of training camp. Everybody was talking about how awesome he looked and how great he seemed. And he just fell apart as the season went on. Like, he had some decent weeks, but then he just really started to fall off of a cliff. Honestly, I hope and pray that we go sign, because Tyrel Dotson was released today, if y'all didn't know. I honestly really hope that we go get him and just replace Kenneth Murray in the starting lineup, because I think that a trio of linebackers of Jerome Baker, Jack Gibbons, and Tyrel Dotson would actually be really solid. I actually met a guy that was close friends with Tyrel Dotson recently, was a waiter for I think it was my grandparents' anniversary. But anyway, moving on to the next one, Big Jeff Simmons. Oh, gosh. Okay, I've been defensive of Big Jeff because I've been thinking, apart from this year, he's always lived up to the contract. He always come to work for us. Good leader, is very active in the community. And, in some ways, he actually reminds me of a defensive version of Derrick Henry, just not as insanely dominant as Derrick Henry was, obviously. But, man, he was not getting it done yesterday. The offensive line for the Chargers was absolutely bullying him, which is honestly kind of embarrassing because don't get me wrong, I love myself some Joe Alt, and there's a reason that I had him as my tackle number 1 last year and why I really was upset whenever the Chargers drafted him. If y'all want to see that reaction, then I'm sure that there is a card for that right here. At least if I can get a card up there, then I'll send y'all straight to it. Again, Big Jeff still not getting the job done. Like even if there's a freak of nature at tackle, you've got to make him pay and you've got to make him not look good. Y'all remember like what Khalil Mack did to Tristan Wirfs his rookie year. That's what an elite defensive lineman is supposed to do to a rookie, no matter how good that rookie is. But still, again, Big Jeff got to get better. Ironically, this is a very rare thing that I have on here, but scheming on defense. Why are we putting Kenneth Murray in coverage? Like, if we're going to do coverage stuff, then we've got to put Jerome Baker in there, man. Like, we've got to put Jerome Baker in there. We should not have Kenneth Murray in there for any type of coverage package whatsoever. He should be what we thought Jamal Adams was going to be for us. Just like a dude that we brought in to blitz, and then maybe like let him cover once in a while, but like don't let him cover on a consistent rating. Like, I just don't understand that. But that's really the only thing about the scheming on the defense that I have to say. But, like, again, Jerome Baker should be in there for most coverage stuff. Like, we thought about signing him this offseason because of how good he was in coverage and how consistent he was in coverage. And it really makes me upset because we could have had a linebacker trio of Jerome Baker, Ernest Jones, and Jack Gibbons at the beginning of the season. That would have fed families right there. But anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. Next thing, special teams. Obviously, I mean, there's not that much else to say about the special teams. Fire Colt Anderson. Ryan Stonehouse looks a little better. Nick Folks as consistent as ever. And just everything else is just absolutely awful. We need to get that figured out ASAP. But anyway, and the last thing that I want to mention, this is something that I don't mention that much, but penalties. I've been ignoring it for the past few weeks, but like our penalties are consistently high, which is something that worries me about Callahan, ironically enough. Like some people have been worried about the play calling, his non-willingness to fire Colt Anderson, and I get those things, but like my biggest worry about him is that the team just looks decently undisciplined through the first few weeks of his coaching career. And we've got to get that figured out before that becomes a problem, because if that becomes a problem, then the team automatically gets worse, just because if you have so many penalties, then you can't really do anything. So like again, penalties need to get cleaned up, but overall, those are my thoughts on the game. About my top 5 QBs, the entire list stayed the same. Number 1, Cam Ward. Number 2, Shedeur Sanders. 3, Milroe. 4, Quinn Ewers. 5, Garrett Nussmeier. I know that he didn't have the best game against Bama, but if you thought there was any chance I was putting Carson Beck back on here, especially after another sloppy performance against Ole Miss out of all teams, yeah, no. There was no chance that I was going to put them back on here. That was going to put him back on here. And trust me, that UT defense is going to come at him, and they're going to come at him hard, okay? And I'll be honest, man, I don't know what's going to happen there, because like they could be out for blood and revenge, and that worries me as a Vols fan, but I'm getting sidetracked. Again, maybe starting the Vols podcast soon. Anyway, overall, not the best game. I would give it like a 6 out of 10, mostly just because of the fact like 2 or 3 of those points come from the fact that we are tanking, so we do need to lose to potentially go get a better quarterback if Levis keeps on holding the ball for too long. But Overall, not the best game. I know this team is capable of a lot more, but that's all I got. That's today's episode. I have Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok all under the Titans Rundown if y'all want to go check those out. And I really appreciate the support that y'all have shown me. Like, I know that last week, some really important things went down. This is the only time that I'll speak about anything politically, but I was really appreciative to see that my views didn't just take a big old dip in production, and I really appreciate that. So thank you for that. But anyway, that's going to do it all for me. This has been a rundown of your Tennessee Titans. I love y'all, and tighten up.